The massive courtroom of the Galactic Tribunal fell silent as the doors swung open. Tom Miller, a simple farmer from Earth, walked in with his head held high. The aliens sitting in the circular chamber whispered among themselves, their multiple eyes and varied appendages moving in gestures of disbelief and contempt. Case number 7249, the Galactic Council versus Planet Earth, announced the chief judge, whose crystalline body sparkled under the chamber's bright lights. The council accuses Earth of hiding its true classification as a death world and endangering galactic peace by allowing its inhabitants to freely travel through space. Tom couldn't help but smile. He remembered the day when aliens first arrived on Earth, expecting to find a peaceful Class 3 world. Instead, they discovered humans thriving on a planet that should have killed them long ago. Earth's gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators, and countless diseases made it a Class 1 death world by galactic standards. The prosecution, led by Ambassador Rex from the peaceful garden world of Eden 5, stepped forward. His blue-tinted skin reflected his world's eternal spring weather. Your Honors, we present evidence that humans have evolved on a planet that breaks every safety regulation in the galaxy. Their bones are reinforced with calcium, their skin can repair itself, and their immune systems actively fight diseases. These are traits of apex predators, not civilized beings. The gallery erupted in shocked gasps. Some of the more delicate species activated their personal shield generators, as if Tom might suddenly attack them. Furthermore, Rex continued, humans can eat almost anything. They consume substances that would kill most species, including capsaicin and caffeine. They purposely exercise until their muscles tear, making them stronger. This is barbaric. Tom's defender, a tall, logical being named Max from the silicon-based Rational Collective, raised an objection. The prosecution seems to forget that adaptation is not a crime. Humans didn't choose their world, they survived it. And in doing so, they developed not just physical strength, but art, music, literature, and a deep respect for life in all its forms. The chief judge turned all three of its sensory clusters toward Tom. Human Tom Miller, you have been chosen to represent your species. What do you say in Earth's defense? Tom stood up, his work-worn hands steady on the podium. He looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of countless alien species. Your Honors, we humans don't see Earth as a death world. We call it home. Yes, our planet is challenging, but those challenges made us who we are. We learned to help each other survive, to build communities, to innovate and adapt. He pulled out a small potted plant from his bag, a simple daisy he'd brought from his farm. Several aliens recoiled at the sight of uncontained Earth flora. This flower grows in what you'd call harsh conditions. But look at its beauty. Like humanity, it doesn't just survive, it thrives and creates something wonderful. Should it be punished for being strong? The chamber buzzed with murmurs. Tom continued, his voice firm but gentle. We humans don't want to frighten anyone. We want to share what we've learned from living on Earth. Our adaptability means we can help terraform hostile worlds. Our immune systems could help develop new medicines. Our strength could help build new colonies. As Part 1 drew to a close, the chief judge called for a recess to consider this perspective. The gallery remained abuzz with discussion. Some aliens still looked fearful, but others showed signs of curiosity. Perhaps humanity's greatest strength wasn't their physical adaptations, but their ability to turn survival into an art form. Tom sat back down, knowing this was just the beginning. The fate of Earth's place in the galactic community hung in the balance, and he was ready to show them all what humanity truly stood for. When the tribunal reconvened after the recess, Ambassador Rex launched into his most dramatic evidence yet. The massive display screens around the chamber flickered to life, showing scenes from Earth that made many aliens flinch in their seats. Observe, Rex announced, his blue skin paling slightly. Humans climbing frozen mountains without environmental suits. Humans diving into ocean depths that would crush most species. Humans running vast distances for entertainment. His voice rose with each example. And most disturbing of all, humans deliberately exposing themselves to high temperatures in what they call saunas for relaxation. Tom watched as the gallery erupted in horrified whispers. He noticed some of the smaller alien species actually trembling at the footage. Even his defender, Max, seemed momentarily at a loss for words. The chief judge's crystalline form shifted colors, indicating deep concern. These activities appear extremely dangerous. Human Tom Miller, how do you explain your species' apparent disregard for personal safety? Tom stood again, his farmer's patience serving him well. Your honors, what you see as reckless behavior, we see as exploration and self-improvement. Those mountain climbers? They're studying high-altitude ecosystems. The deep-sea divers? They're documenting ocean life and helping protect endangered species. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. As for running marathons and using saunas, these activities help us understand our limits and improve our health. We don't do these things because we're death seekers. We do them because they help us become better stewards of our world. A new voice spoke up from the gallery. It belonged to Dr. Lee, a respected xenobiologist from a low-gravity world. If I may address the court? At the chief judge's nod, she continued. Our initial studies of human physiology revealed something extraordinary. Their bodies don't just endure stress, they adapt and improve because of it. It's a biological response we've never seen before. Ambassador Rex jumped in. Exactly. They're basically biological weapons. Their very existence threatens the galactic peace we've maintained for millennia. Max, Tom's defender, finally found his opening. The prosecution's argument is fundamentally flawed. They're suggesting we punish an entire species for evolving successfully. Should we also punish the floating minds of Nebula 7 for developing natural telepathy? Or the crystal beings of Rigel for their ability to photosynthesize radiation? The chamber grew quiet as Max projected a new image, ancient cave paintings from Earth. Look at humanity's first art. Even when they were struggling to survive, they created beauty. They told stories. They imagined futures better than their present. Are these the actions of mindless monsters? Tom pulled out another item from his bag, a simple first aid kit. Several security drones immediately scanned it, but he opened it slowly to reveal its contents. This represents humanity's true nature. Yes, we're strong enough to survive our world, but we use that strength to help others. Every human child learns basic first aid. We stop to help strangers in trouble. We rush into burning buildings to save others, regardless of the risk to ourselves. The chief judge's colors shifted again, this time showing patterns of curiosity. You suggest that humanity's adaptations have led to altruism rather than aggression? Exactly, Tom replied. Our harsh world didn't make us cruel, it taught us the value of cooperation. Every human achievement, from our first tools to our space programs, came from working together. As Part 2 concluded, the mood in the chamber had subtly shifted. Some aliens were still afraid, but others were beginning to see humanity in a new light. The chief judge announced they would hear expert testimony next, and Tom knew the real challenge was just beginning. He had to prove that humanity's strength wasn't a threat to galactic peace, it was a promise of protection for all species who needed it. The next day of the trial brought forward the expert witnesses. First to testify was Professor Gray, an ancient being from a gas giant world who had studied emerging civilizations for over 3 centuries. His holographic form flickered as he addressed the tribunal. In all my years of research, Professor Gray began, his voice resonating through the chamber, I've never encountered a species quite like humans. Most life forms evolve to fit a specific niche. But humans? They adapt to almost any environment they encounter. Ambassador Rex interrupted, exactly. They're like a virus, spreading and changing. No, Professor Gray's form pulsed with authority. They're more like universal translators. Humans can understand and bridge gaps between different species because they themselves contain such diversity. Their ability to survive anywhere makes them excellent mediators. Tom listened intently as the professor displayed holographic data showing human settlements across various worlds. From the ice mines of Pluto to the scorching research stations on Venus, humans had already proven their adaptability within their own solar system. The next expert was Commander Blake of the Galactic Peace Force, a towering insectoid whose metallic exoskeleton clicked as she moved. The tribunal must hear this, she mandated. 3 standard months ago, a mining colony on Proxima B suffered a catastrophic reactor failure. The environment was too toxic for most rescue teams. But a human emergency crew volunteered. The chamber's screens showed footage of humans in basic protective suits, working in conditions that would kill most species instantly. They rescued not just other humans, but members of 17 different species. They walked into death, Commander Blake continued, not because they were immune to it, but because they refused to let others die. I've never seen such a combination of physical capability and moral courage. Ambassador Rex wasn't finished. He called his own expert, Dr. Vix, a specialist in evolutionary psychology. The small, furry scientist adjusted his gravity stabilizer before speaking. You're all missing the crucial point. Humans don't just survive dangerous conditions, they seek them out. They call it adventure or exploration, but it's clearly a sign of mental instability. Tom's Defender Max countered by projecting images of human children playing safely in parks, human doctors healing the sick, and human teachers educating young ones. Is this your evidence of instability? A species that nurtures its young, cares for its weak, and values learning? The chief judge raised all 3 sensory clusters. The court calls for the final expert witness, the AI archive keeper. A shimmering matrix of light appeared in the center of the chamber. The archive keeper was the oldest artificial intelligence in the galaxy, containing records of countless civilizations. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. In my database spanning millions of years, it began, I find a curious pattern. Species from gentle worlds often create the most violent empires. They never learn to value life because they never had to fight for it. But species from harsh worlds, like humans, often develop the strongest ethical codes. They understand the price of survival. The AI projected a stunning visualization showing how Earth species, including humans, had repeatedly evolved cooperation as a survival strategy. Humans call it humanity, the choice to help others even at personal cost. It's not despite their harsh world, but because of it. They learn that the strongest survival strategy is to ensure everyone survives. Tom stood up, feeling the weight of his species' future on his shoulders. What the archive keeper says is true. We don't explore space looking for fights or trying to prove our strength. We explore because we hope to find friends, to learn from others, and yes, to help where we can. Earth taught us that life is precious exactly because it's fragile. As Part 3 drew to a close, the chamber buzzed with intense discussion. The evidence was mounting, but in which direction? The chief judge announced a longer recess for the next day's final arguments. Tom knew that everything would depend on humanity's last chance to prove they deserved a place among the stars not as monsters, but as guardians. The 4th day of the trial brought unexpected drama as Ambassador Rex played his final hand. The massive screens in the chamber displayed a new series of images that made even Tom's steady farmer's hands clench with concern. Honorable judges, Rex began, his blue skin almost white with intensity, observe humanity's military capacity. The screens showed Earth's armies, navies, and air forces. A species that evolved on a death world has created weapons that could devastate entire planets. Their entertainment, their games, even their sport celebrate combat. The gallery erupted in fearful murmurs as Rex continued. But here's what truly terrifies me. The screens shifted to show human medical procedures. They cut open their own bodies to heal themselves. They transplant organs. They deliberately inject themselves with weakened diseases to build immunity. What kind of species does such things? Tom felt the mood in the chamber darkening. Even some of the previously sympathetic aliens were showing signs of distress. But before he could respond, an unexpected voice rang out. "I request permission to address the court," called a small figure from the gallery. It was Dr. Smith, a human physician who had been working with alien species in the outer colonies. The chief judge's crystals flickered in consideration before granting permission. Dr. Smith walked to the center of the chamber, her white medical coat stark against the metallic floor. "Yes, we humans develop weapons. Yes, we perform surgery. Yes, we created vaccines. But look at how we use these capabilities." She gestured, and the screens changed to show human military forces conducting disaster relief operations across the galaxy. Our ships that could destroy worlds. They deliver aid to disaster zones. Our soldiers? They build bridges and rescue people from floods. Our medical knowledge? We share it freely with any species who needs it. Ambassador Rex scoffed. Pretty words to hide deadly potential. What happens when humans decide to use their Deathworld abilities for conquest? Tom stood up then, his voice firm. We already decided, thousands of years ago. Every human culture has stories about heroes who chose to protect rather than destroy. We learned that lesson on our harsh world: strength means nothing if it's not used to help others. The chamber's attention shifted as Max, Tom's defender, introduced new evidence. I present the statistics of human interactions with other species since first contact. Holographic numbers filled the air. 0 unprovoked attacks. Over 3,000 documented cases of humans risking their lives to save members of other species. Hundreds of human medical breakthroughs freely shared with the galactic community. But Rex had one last revelation. What about the humans' own history? Their wars? Their conflicts? The archive keeper's matrix suddenly glowed brighter. Interesting that you mention their history, its voice resonated. I've analyzed every spacefaring civilization we've encountered. Know this, humans are the only species to achieve unity without first attempting galactic conquest. They learn to overcome their violent tendencies before reaching the stars, not after countless genocides like the Empire of Bright Suns, or through forced technological pacification like the Silicon Consensus. The chief judge's crystalline form shifted through rainbow patterns. This brings us to a crucial question: is humanity's potential for violence a bug or a feature? Are we safer with them outside our civilization, or helping to protect it? Tom stood for his final statement of the day. He pulled out one last item from his bag, a simple teddy bear. This is what we give our children on Earth. A soft, gentle companion to help them feel safe in the dark. Because that's who we are, not just survivors of a harsh world, but dreamers who want everyone to feel protected. We faced our world's challenges not by becoming monsters, but by becoming guardians. As Part 4 concluded, the gallery was silent for the first time since the trial began. The chief judge announced that final arguments would begin the next day, followed immediately by the verdict. Tonight, however, every being in the chamber would have to wrestle with a profound question: could the galaxy's most dangerous species also be its greatest protectors? The fifth day of the trial began with an unexpected event. As Ambassador Rex prepared to deliver his closing argument, emergency alarms blared throughout the Galactic Tribunal station. Red warning lights pulsed across the crystalline walls as the station's AI announced, "Warning. Catastrophic reactor failure detected. Core meltdown imminent. All beings proceed to evacuation pods." Panic erupted in the chamber. Different species rushed toward the exits, some flying, others crawling or slithering. The artificial gravity began to fluctuate, causing more chaos. Ambassador Rex himself was among the first to flee, his blue skin now almost white with fear. But Tom Miller didn't run. Instead, he turned to the chief judge. "Your Honor, I worked on a fusion reactor farm back on Earth. I might be able to help." The chief judge's crystalline form flickered with indecision. "The reactor chamber is heavily shielded. The radiation levels would be lethal to most species." "Most species," Tom said with a grim smile, "didn't evolve on a death world." The archive keeper's matrix pulsed urgently. "The human speaks truth. Their natural radiation resistance, combined with their problem-solving abilities, gives them a 31% chance of success. All other available species have less than 1%. Tom was already moving. "Dr. Smith," he called to the physician who had testified yesterday. "I'll need your help. And Commander Blake, if you're willing, your knowledge of the station's systems would be invaluable." The insectoid commander clicked her mandibles in agreement. "I will guide you through the maintenance tunnels. But the radiation dash will kill us slower than anyone else," Dr. Smith finished, already pulling emergency radiation gear from a wall panel. "That's all the advantage we need." The chief judge's voice rang out, "This is not part of the trial. You are not obligated dash." "Yes, we are," Tom interrupted. "Not by law, but by who we are. Max, keep everyone calm and organized. Get them to the evacuation pods. We'll handle the reactor." As the chamber emptied, Tom, Dr. Smith, and Commander Blake raced through the maintenance tunnels. The station's heat shields were already failing, making the metal walls hot enough to burn. But humans had evolved to sweat, to regulate their temperature in ways most species couldn't. They reached the reactor control room to find it bathed in deadly radiation. Their handheld sensors screamed warnings. Even with the protective gear, they had minutes at most. "The coolant systems failed," Commander Blake reported, her exoskeleton beginning to smoke slightly. "The backup systems are offline." Tom studied the reactor's design. Different from Earth's models, but the principles were the same. "The main coolant lines are blocked. We need to reroute through the emergency channels, but they'll need to be opened manually." "The manual controls are in there," Commander Blake pointed to a chamber glowing with lethal radiation levels. "No station engineer would survive long enough to complete the sequence." Tom looked at Dr. Smith. They shared a nod. "Good thing we're not station engineers. We're humans." They stepped into the chamber together. Their radiation suits began to melt, but human skin had evolved to repair itself, to fight against damage in ways that amazed other species. Their bones, dense from Earth's gravity, provided better radiation shielding than most creatures possessed. Working with burned hands, fighting through pain that would have incapacitated other species, they reached the controls. Tom's farmer's strength and Dr. Smith's surgical precision complemented each other as they forced open frozen valves and rerouted crucial systems. Commander Blake's voice crackled over the failing comm system, "Coolant flow restoration detected. Reactor temperature dropping. You did it." As Part 5 drew to its dramatic close, Tom and Dr. Smith stumbled out of the reactor chamber, their bodies damaged but alive, their actions speaking louder than any courtroom argument. They had just demonstrated humanity's true nature, not through words or evidence, but through choices made in the heart of crisis. The station was safe, but the trial's most powerful evidence had just been written in radiation burns and unwavering courage. As medical teams rushed to treat them, Tom couldn't help but wonder, how would the tribunal view humanity now? The medical bay of the Galactic Tribunal station hummed with activity as Tom Miller and Dr. Smith received treatment for their radiation exposure. Their bodies, remarkably, were already beginning to heal, another testament to humanity's extraordinary resilience. The trial had reconvened, but this time in the medical bay itself, with holographic projections connecting them to the main chamber. Ambassador Rex, who had returned looking somewhat ashamed, stood before the court. His blue skin had regained some of its color, but his voice lacked its previous accusatory tone. "Your Honors," he began, then paused, looking at the two humans lying in their medical pods. I request to modify my position." The Chief Judge's crystalline form sparkled with interest. "Proceed, Ambassador." "Yesterday, I showed evidence of humanity's capacity for violence, their dangerous adaptations, their potential for destruction. Today, we all witnessed how they choose to use those same traits." Rex's voice grew stronger. "They ran toward danger while the rest of us ran away. They risked death not for glory or gain, but to save others, including those who would judge them as monsters." The gallery murmured in agreement. Commander Blake stepped forward, her exoskeleton still showing scorch marks from the reactor room. The humans knew the radiation levels would harm them. They knew their protective gear wouldn't last. Yet they went anyway. "In all my years of service, I've never seen such humanity," Max suggested quietly. The Archive Keeper's matrix appeared, its light softer than usual. "Let the record show that the humans' actions align perfectly with their historical patterns. When faced with crisis, they consistently choose to protect others, even at great personal cost. It is, perhaps, their most remarkable adaptation." Dr. Smith, her voice weak but clear, spoke from her medical pod. "We keep trying to tell you, Earth didn't make us monsters. It taught us the value of life precisely because it was hard to preserve. We learned that survival isn't about being the strongest or the most deadly. It's about helping each other through the dark times." Tom tried to sit up, wincing at the movement. The medical AI immediately adjusted his pain medication, but he waved it off. "What you fear about us, our strength, our resilience, our ability to survive, these aren't weapons. They're tools. And like any tool, their value depends on how they're used." The Chief Judge's colors shifted thoughtfully. "You used them today to save this station. To save us. Because that's what humans do," Tom replied simply. "We see someone in trouble, we help. We don't stop to calculate the risk or check if they're the same species. We just help." Ambassador Rex cleared his throat. "Your Honors, in light of today's events, I wish to withdraw the prosecution's request for Earth's quarantine. Instead, I propose a different classification for humanity." He paused, looking directly at Tom and Dr. Smith. "Not as Deathworld monsters, but as galactic guardians." The chamber erupted in discussion. The Chief Judge raised all sensory clusters for silence. "This is unprecedented. No species has ever been designated as guardians before." "Perhaps," the Archive Keeper interjected, "that is because no species has combined such capacity for survival with such dedication to protecting others. My record suggests that humanity's unique evolution has created not just physical adaptations, but moral ones." As Part 6 drew to a close, the Chief Judge announced that the final verdict would be delivered once the human representatives had recovered sufficiently. The gallery began to disperse, but many aliens lingered, approaching the medical pods to express their gratitude and, more surprisingly, their apologies for judging humanity so harshly. Tom lay back in his pod, thinking about his small farm back on Earth, about the simple Daisy he'd brought to court, about how much had changed in just a few days. They had come to defend humanity's right to exist in the galactic community. Instead, they might have just redefined humanity's role in it entirely. 3 days after the reactor incident, the Galactic Tribunal reconvened for its final session. The chamber was more crowded than ever, with representatives from hundreds of worlds attending both in person and via hologram. Tom Miller and Dr. Smith, now recovered thanks to their remarkable healing abilities, stood before the court one last time. The chief judge's crystalline form glowed with all the colors of the spectrum, a rare display indicating the historical significance of the moment. Before we deliver our verdict, the court has received an unprecedented number of testimonials from various species. We will hear a few. A hologram appeared, a mother from the aquatic world of Deep Blue. A human diving team saved my children when our underwater city's dome cracked. They swam deeper than their equipment was rated for. They ignored their safety protocols. They saved everyone. Another testimony followed, a being of pure energy from the Nebula Collective. Human scientists helped us stabilize our dying star. Their bodies were never meant to withstand our radiation levels, but they worked until they found a solution. They refused to let our civilization die. More testimonials poured in, humans fighting fires in methane atmospheres, humans establishing emergency colonies for displaced species, humans developing vaccines for alien diseases. Each story highlighted not just their physical capabilities, but their unwavering determination to help others. The archive keeper's matrix expanded, filling the chamber with points of light like stars. In my vast database, there is a human concept that seems relevant: with great power comes great responsibility. Humanity's Deathworld evolution gave them great power. Their choices show how they view that responsibility. Ambassador Rex, who had started this trial demanding humanity's quarantine, now stood as their advocate. Your Honors, we feared humans because they survived conditions that would kill most species. We failed to see that this same trait makes them uniquely qualified to help those in danger. They don't just survive, they help others survive too. Max, Tom's defender, displayed one final image, the simple daisy from Tom's farm, still blooming in its pot despite the recent chaos. Like this flower, humanity doesn't just endure harsh conditions. They transform them into something beautiful. They take the cruelty of their world and turn it into kindness. They take their struggle for survival and turn it into a mission to help others thrive. The chief judge rose, all sensory clusters focused on Tom and Dr. Smith. This trial began as an assessment of danger. It became a revelation of possibility. The verdict of this tribunal is as follows. The chamber fell completely silent. First, Earth's classification as a death world stands. This is not a punishment, but a recognition of the extraordinary conditions that forged humanity. Second, the human species is hereby designated as the first galactic guardians, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Their strength will be counted among our greatest assets, not our greatest threats. Third, a new galactic academy will be established on Earth, where other species can learn from humanity's unique perspective on survival, adaptation, and protection of life in all its forms. The chamber erupted in celebrations. Species that had recoiled from humans days ago now approached them with gratitude and curiosity. The archive keeper's matrix pulsed with satisfaction, recording this historic moment for future generations. Tom stood quietly, holding his farmer's hands together. Dr. Smith put a hand on his shoulder. Not bad for a couple of Deathworlders, she said with a smile. We just showed them who we really are, Tom replied, looking at the celebrating aliens around them. Not what our world made us, but what we chose to become. As the story concluded, the galaxy had gained more than new guardians. It had learned a profound truth, that the harshest worlds could produce the kindest hearts, that the strongest beings could be the gentlest souls, and that what others saw as a curse, humanity had transformed into a gift for all species. The simple daisy from Earth continued to bloom in the Galactic Tribunal chamber, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, life finds a way not just to survive, but to create something beautiful.